Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the Sunday service of the Vedanta Society of Toronto. As you can see from the background, I am not in the ashram in Toronto. I have come to Paris. And I'm in fact in the suburb of the Paris, Grades, where is our Vedanta Center of in Grades in France. This is the only center in France. And a beautiful time, and weather is very good. Today it was sunny here, temperature rising to some 12, 14 degrees, and wonderful. The Swami Atmarupananda ji was very kind and hospitable, and we were late to come first day when we arrived here around 11 o'clock, and he had kept the food ready and warm, and he himself went 3 stories up and showed me the room and everything he did. And the brahmacharis are here, so wonderful, and devotees are also taking care. So I'm very happy to be to have come to Paris and to great center of an old center. The house itself is like a four-storied house, very big house. And we have cows here, about 10 cows here in the ashram, and they're kept well and looked after well. Two of them give milk. This is about our great center, started long back by Swami Siddheswaranandaji, disciple of Swami Brahmanandaji. And the last one was Swami Vitamohanandaji. He had gone to Toronto. We remember he passed away sadly. So now he is Atmarupanandaji, who had also visited Toronto, and he was head of, in charge of our Houston Center. So he has been requested by Belurma to come and take charge of the Great Center in France. So the topic today is pain of separation. So we all know that how separation is painful. Separation, even we know that when children become, when children are born, it's so joyful for every household. They're growing up, we see, and they're learning, and they're walking, and they're speaking. All is so joyful that that baby grows up to become adolescent, and one day after high school, a baby, he or she wants to go to college and has to leave. And in many houses, it is seen how parents are sad, not unhappy, but sad that they have to leave. Their son has to go, or daughter has to go in different city or different college, perhaps, and have to stay there. But they will go and weekly and see. After that, they graduate, and then they get job and go to different cities or different countries to get a job. That is very difficult for most of the parents, though they will welcome it, but they find it a little painful. So that is a pain of separation that happens. But the real pain of separation is happens when we physically separate, physically depart forever. That is the death. So when there is a death of our dear ones in our family, or in the person whom we really loved and like, that person dies and separates, that is terrible. So that pain is creates real suffering in our mind and in our emotion. We are really very much shaken by such reaction. There is separation also in married people. There is some separation, like they get sometimes husband and wife can go together, and there's divorce and separation. That is also painful. It also breaks all the dreams of a happy married life, but it didn't work out. But this separation of death or divorce, or our own son or daughter going abroad or different cities to stay, so those are all parts of life. Whereas the person that goes to our friend moves or we move, there is all a little pain is there. But in the moving, there is little pain because there is chance of meeting again and they come back sometime in the year. But in divorce, there is greater pain because there have been there is a shattering of our dreams, our plans, and death. There is really lot of pain because person has gone forever, not to come back again, not to talk. We cannot touch that person. Only person remains in memory. So this pain is really creates us this. There is pain is created by the separation. Buddha told that everything that you hold dear and you get attached, so is cause of change, separation, and change, decay, and separation. So everything that we hold dear, whether it is our own body or our own relations or our own friends or our own place, everything will change, will go, will move. The whole world is moving. Gachati iti jagat. Jagat is always moving, always in a flux, always changing. So if we want to hold on as such, then there is suffering. We have to, then how to cope that suffering, we'll talk it later. In the world, this changing world, we have to take little by little. That's like today. That's why they say live in the present, not in the future, not in the past. We often dwell in the past and plan for the future, and that's why we suffer more because something happened in the past and we go on dwelling, and that also creates problem. And the future is so uncertain, we don't know. The present alone is certain, and enjoy the present wherever you are, whatever you are, whatever health you have. So enjoy the present. Then future, let it come. Disease and death and weakness and all those things are waiting for us if if we live longer. So why to worry for those? Enjoy as you are. So now we'll also talk how is there possibility of really being indifferent to the suffering of physical suffering or the suffering of loss of the person we love, or suffering of there is there a way we can get rid of the pain of separation? We'll talk to this. So pain is of two kinds, physical and emotional. So both kinds of pain are welcome, they're unpleasant. But pain may be unpleasant, particularly the physical pain, but it is not an enemy. It's not everything bad about pain. Pain has something, a positive thing is also in it. It gives us the condition of our health. If we have headache or if we have pain in our some part of our body, then we know there is something wrong and we rush to the doctor. And then if they find that that was wrong, and they repair that wrong, or they treat that whatever was wrong, or they, if it is a pain of appendicitis, they will remove the appendix. If there was no pain and the appendix was to burst without pain, person would die. So pain is helpful for the survival of the body. And pain is therefore inevitable. If we have body and mind, we will suffer, we will have pain. Now this suffering thing, how much we suffer, that depends on particular. That's why they say pain is not an enemy. It is unpleasant, but it is not an enemy. It is natural, and mostly it is useful for us. Now in spiritual life, we try to tackle all these things that create that bring suffering in our life. If we have to live with pain, then is there a way that we can be free from the suffering, though having pain but not suffering out of it? Is there a way? Can spirituality help in that? Spirituality will say yes, there is the possibility um, of being freed from or saving oneself from the suffering. This pain and suffering are not same. Pain is obligatory, whereas suffering is optional. We can choose, or we can make our level of suffering according to our state of mind, or our strength of mind, or strength of body even. They say of threshold of pain. That is how much pain you can endure. One is some are born with they can bear the greater pain than others. Even emotional pain also exactly same way. Some can bear more greater pain, and others, if on small things they suffer so much, and because they are too much worried for the future. Little you sneeze and say, "Oh, this is cold, maybe COVID," and you started suffering after that. Maybe you have got COVID. Maybe life is short now, gone. I will die because of COVID. Like that, there is all you make plan for the future and think it extrapolate what has happened, and you suffer for nothing. So, but in the live in the time, and if that's why they say, if you have COVID and if you, it is not treatable, and if you are to die, if you are going to die, nobody can save. The death is inevitable in life. When we are born, we were going to die one day, today or one day we are going to die. Why to suffer? Because of the out of the fear of death. So that is just a created suffering. That is the suffering that was optional and we chose to suffer. That's the problem. So suffering is in our hands, but pain may come to anyone, and pain can be coped with. Separation from loved ones is painful. Being with the person we don't like is also painful. In fact, Buddha said there are dukkha arya satcham. There are four of the one of the noble truth, four truths. Dukkha said dukkha or suffering is there in life. And he was a great spiritual teacher. That's why he said there is suffering is true. There is suffering in the world. And it is also true that there is a cause for suffering. And it is also true that there is a way out of suffering. And also, it is also true that to have the way of suffering, there are definite methods and steps. If you go through that, you can get rid of suffering altogether. There is suffering for a person who doesn't know or doesn't lead a good spiritual life. A person who leads a spiritual life, and he can overcome suffering and go beyond all pain of separation and pain of suffering. In this noble truth, he says, birth is sorrow, aging is sorrow, disease is sorrow, death is sorrow, contact with unpleasant is sorrow, separation from the pleasant is sorrow, every unfulfilled wish is sorrow. So, suffering or pain is there in so many ways. It comes for an unenlightened person, for a person who is not taken to spiritual life. But for those who have taken to spiritual life, there is a way out, and that's what we seek, to be free from all suffering, to be always joyful in all situations, in all circumstances, in all, even in the greatest pain. We want to reduce the suffering out of that pain and live a serene, calm, balanced, withstand all suffering. So that is the goal of spiritual life. Um, Pain is an unpleasant sensation. Suffering is the unhappy or resentful feeling because of that pain. It is a negative feeling is suffering. For example, we get some pain in some hand. You see something happened, tendinitis, suppose. Now you suffer. You cannot walk. You limp, and you don't know what is there. How much it is difficult to walk, difficult to sleep. Sometimes that is pain. Now, if we think, oh, this pain, why did it come to me? What did I do wrong? Why me? All this question you ask, what will happen after that? Perhaps I will be wheelchair bound soon. I will not be able to walk. If you think that way, and you suffer more because you extrapolate and start thinking about the future, unfounded, and this is not what is going to happen. You don't know, just you start imagining and you suffer more. The suffering is in your hand, how much you want to suffer by thinking worse and negative, and getting frustrated out of it, and getting very unhappy out of it. But Pain is there, it comes, everyone has pain, some pain in physical pain, some everyone has some emotional pain, pain of insult, pain of betrayal, pain of some misunderstanding. All those cause pain, emotional pain in our life. But of those, the most staggering is the pain of separation. So, and pain of separation from death of loved ones and deep sense of love loss is natural, while suffering comes from questions and fears and anxiety. Now, if someone we love, he or she dies, death is inevitable. When death comes, nobody knows. There is no guarantee that death is come this time. There's no fixed time expiry date for any life here. So it may come any time, any place, for any person or any living being. So when we forget that, and then when we question, and then comes anxiety and frustration and guilt feeling. Why me? Why it happened to my dear one? So all this start blaming oneself. I did wrong something sometime, and it's because of that. You feel the guilt feeling, and then you suffer more when you take it as the inevitability of a life that is born in this world. Then that pain can be overcome quickly and easily. We know that the story of Buddha and Kisa Gotami. Kisa Gotami, a widow, had a only son, and the son, as a child, he died, and she ran to Buddha, who was in near her village, and he put that child near Buddha and said, Lord, you are all powerful. You are such a great person. You have so much power. I want you to give life back to this dead boy. So Gautam Buddha was serene and calm. He knew the nature of the world. He didn't say that dead person won't come to life. He just said, "Can you bring a fistful of mustard water, mustard seeds from a house in this village?" From the house that no one has seen death anytime, nobody has died, nobody, no relation or no one, no person that is known has died to that house. So she rushed to the houses, and one after another someone said, my grandparents died, someone said my parents died, someone said my child died. There was no house or no person found whose no one had died. So by this searching, she the wisdom came to her, and she knew that death is inevitable and death can come anytime to anybody. And she became wise and came back, and all her suffering of the because of this separation, because of the death of her son, had gone. The knowledge came. Knowledge is strength. Knowledge is power. It can remove all our weaknesses. And suffering is definitely a weakness. This pain is a system that comes in our living system, in our life. Emotional pain and also physical pain when you have physical body, emotional pain when you have mind. Then those come. But to make it suffer is too much of our thing. It's lack of knowledge or lack of devotion to God, surrender to God. That happens. And this suffering again enhances the pain. That is that thing. If you think that you are not going to be cured and you had some pain in your limb or on your back and it's not going to cure, and then that thing enhances your pain more and more. When there is suffering like that, there's pain like that in the body, best thing is to know that body, people have suffered, those who have body. I have got this suffering. I will try to treat it with the help of doctors and with the aid of medicines. And if it is treatable by the will of God, it will be treated. Otherwise, there will find some meaning to live with pain. There is a thing called to live with pain. That pain is there, and there is to understand that there is no one in the world that has no pain. It itself is a knowledge that gives us during our suffering. It gives us solace that everyone has to do. This knowledge gives us strength to bear the suffering. Once, Rabia, a great Muslim saint, had throbbing headache, and she tied her head with cloth to just get her less pain. Another Muslim saint was there in that place, in that city, and she saw Rabia tying the head. And then he asked, "What has happened? Why you tied your head?" And she said, "Oh, I have throbbing headache today." And the saint said, "Oh, you are protesting against God. God has given you throbbing headache, and you are say protesting against God." What the saint meant is that increase the power to bear the suffering, bear the pain, instead of trying to cure it with this or that. That will make you happy, and that really happens. In our shastras also it is say, sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta bilaparahitam sa titiksha nigaddate. When there is worries and there is anxieties, then it is suffering. And the forbearance or endurance or titiksha is that spiritual quality of a person when one can, with the help of which one can bear all the tragedy or suffering that comes in our life without any anxiety or fear or any frustration, without any chinta or worries or bilap or lamentation. And that is what it comes and it goes. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Agama apaino anitya tang titikshasva bharata. Oh Arjuna, forbear that, endure that, they come and go. All suffering come and go. So bear that. There was no wrong in treating something with the medicine. That is fine. That is treating the pain, but to transform the pain into suffering because of lack of knowledge or because of lack of endurance, that is not desirable. We may have pain and try to ease that pain with a pill or some drink or some balm. We can do that for certain pains that we get in life, but for a greater pain like pain of separation. Pain is common to all beings. You see, pain of separation is common to all beings. Sri Ramakrishna had this separation. His father died when he was young. When he was in Dakshineshwar, his mother died there, and his mother died, and it pained him. And he sometimes said, "Wait, I go and cry for mother." He that welled up sometimes. It came, it cried, and that was the expression of pain. But for the spiritual persons like Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda, it is there, but for the very short time. They can overcome it with the knowledge very soon. Swami Vivekananda also cried when Balaram Boshu died. He was at Varanasi with Pramod Das Mitra's house. And when Pramod Das Mitra saw Swami Vivekananda crying, he said, "Swamiji, you are a Paramahamsa. You know that world is unreal, and everything is in the world is transitory. And you, as the knower of Brahman, know that you are Atman. Why do you cry? Such a knower of Brahman, such a Paramahamsa sannyasi." Swami Vivekananda said, "I have become a sannyasi doesn't mean my heart has become of stone. The feeling, the pain, that should not go. We are not of that being stoic person that no feeling will be there for others. Somebody died, somebody suffering, somebody in need. Sannyasins are the one, the realized souls are the one, the Jivan Muktas are the one who feel most for those people. They have the feeling of oneness with all. When a person was, two person was quarreling on the boat, and Sri Ramakrishna saw up from his room, and the people were quarreling in the boat in Ganga, and one person slapped at the back of another person. Sri Ramakrishna cried out, "Ah!" And he felt that pain of two persons quarreling. At that stage of Sri Ramakrishna, they feel oneness with all. They become one with all. And not only he felt the pain, the there were the impression of fingers of slapping of other boat on the person who got beaten, who got slapped, who got beaten. So he identified with the person who was hurt. So like that, and he, like that, oneness can go up to that level, and they suffer in that way. That pain is there. So all these great persons, they have the moment of pain in their life. Holy Mother was also so much having the pain of separation when Sri Ramakrishna was sick, cancer, very advanced stage, few days remaining to his survival. She went to Tarakeshwar, to Shiva temple, to pray for Sri Ramakrishna. And what was the prayer? It is called Hatta Deva. It's called living there to God to ask for some cure, some medicine, or some way to cure the disease, and not to eat anything until something is God in dream or in vision, and that's called Hatta Deva. So Holy Mother went there to find some medicine for Sri Ramakrishna by Shiva's grace. And what happens in one time she had the vision that there are many pitchers, earthen pitchers, and some person came and started breaking that pitcher one after another. And she realized that body has to go, pitcher has to break, and body has to die, and the soul ever remains same. And the akasha inside the pitcher is one with the mahakasha. It's always one with the space outside. So there is no depth of the space. The person is really space. It is not the pitcher. It's not the container. It's the content. So there is no depth of the person, and outer being, that body, this gross body, has to die. So she came back peaceful and didn't pray for that. So that's how the knowledge can give peace. Knowledge of the inevitability of the separation because of death can give us a lot of peace in our life. Sometimes, as I said, we bring the thing that happens, if suppose it is unnatural death or untimely death, and then we start thinking why this happened to this person. He was so beloved. One is he left us, that's separate, he became separate, that is pain. Then there is suffering. Why for this person? Why God did this to this person? He couldn't enjoy even life. He was a young person and he had to die. Why me? The suffering to me. What wrong did I do? I don't remember having done any wrong. Why did God punish me? God has not punished anyone. God has done the duty of prarabdha. It is all karma. When karma finishes, when there is the time to go, we have to go. Any one of us has to go. This is very natural. The problem becomes we never expect that, and that we can die any moment. Life is very transient and temporary, and we think the thing will be remaining same all the time. That's why we suffer a lot. The things do not remain same all the time. So there is a moment then when we have to separate. Those who have that type of knowledge, even a husband and wife, those who know that one of them have to go first and are ready for that thing, then they don't suffer at all. Any one of us can go earlier, and they can be prayerful for that thing, and that thing will happen. That knowledge will give the strength to endure that suffering, that loss of their companion, their friend for decades of years, scores of years, and how to live now without life partner who had been there for 50 years, 60 years, 40 years, how to live with that in the memory, and how to make the life remaining part of the life useful, and to propagate the wish of that person, deceased person, died person, to make it fulfill the wish of that person. How could we do that? So that person can live in that way. So this suffering is not called for. We have to be wise. So this wisdom to conquer the pain of separation can come from some of the thoughts. Like one is reincarnation of life after death. Um, Sri Krishna said in the Gita, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Those who are born, their death is inevitable. And those who have died, their being born is certain. So, and if the death is certainty of life, then why should we suffer so much for the death of our dear ones? It had to happen, it happened. And when he died, he's not lost forever. He is there or she is there. He or she will be born again as a human being. I will have no physical connection, but that person will remain and get another new body, new samskaras, new life, brand new life that person will get. If we really love the person, we should not suffer. But the problem is, love is rare and attachment is more common in our lives. Attachment is very selfish, and attachment brings sometimes fear, sometimes missing the person. Sometimes we had lot of plans. If someone died, is our son, we think that if son grows, he will look after me. Daughter would have looked after when I'm old, and that will not happen. Who will look after me? That is pure selfishness. And when that selfish dream is shattered, then we have a lot of greater pain. But that pain was due. That could come in any way. Even our son or daughter would have died. She would have moved to other cities. She would have perhaps left the contact with us. So many ways that dream could be shattered, and the dream and this death shattered the dream. This dream, the suffering was not due to the separation of the dear one, but because of our attachment to the person and our self-centeredness, everything belonging to the self alone. So if we really love the person, when someone dies, we pray for that person and we pray for their movement of the soul for higher regions or a good new life or total salvation, whatever you want to pray. You pray for that, and that pain slowly goes away when you think that person has gone to a better place. They always say that. And another thing, we always think that this world is very enjoyable and wonderful place to exist. But we don't know other existence, other worlds. There are so many other worlds, it is said in our scriptures. All other worlds might be better than this world. This world is full of suffering, that Buddha said. So why do we so much suffer, so much have bear pain when someone has really separated from us because of death? So we can endure with that knowledge about the person. Another thing that we find that will give us strength at the moment of separation is that soul never dies. And as Sri Krishna said, that it cannot be cut by the weapons and or dried by the wind or wet by water, or it cannot be achedyoyam adayam, cannot be burned by the fire. So it is indestructible. That is what the soul is. The person's body has died, but the person has not died. There is no real separation. So why should we not accept this truth of life, that body is transmigrate, body is perishable, soul is transmigratory, and it is immortal. It doesn't die. So when it doesn't die, so why should I suffer? And so the soul never dies, neither mine nor the person whom I loved. So it is eternal and immortal. So this knowledge also gives us a lot of strength and solace that the one I loved is ever living. When Holy Mother was trying to wear a widow's dress after Sri Ramakrishna passed away, Sri Ramakrishna appeared to her and said, "Why are you putting widow's dress? Widow's this thing. Don't do that. Don't think I have gone somewhere forever. I have gone from this room to that room. I am very much present and living. Only you are not able to see me." Like that is our dear ones when they die. They are always there in our memory. The soul never dies. As soul, they ever exist. We will not be able to see them. We will not be able to talk them, perhaps, but they are ever living. They are, so we don't need to suffer because they are ever living. Their soul cannot die, cannot be destroyed. When we know the person I loved is not dead in reality, she is ever living, eternal, then our suffering goes. Just missing them because of we cannot see them, we cannot talk to them, we cannot sit together and eat together and move together. That is a different issue. But that happens when we leave also. We don't get our children always with us now to go for a travel. So when you go for, after your children are grown up and they have their own family, rarely there our children's family go with us, because with the parents go, they have their own their own circle of their friends. With them they move. They really, the children have their own circle of friends, they move with them. So that thing doesn't happen, we know that. So like that, when a person dies, he may not or she may not come, but that person ever lives. He or she has not died. The only body has died. So lack of knowledge about this and identifying this body with the soul, with the real person, that is one way which, for which we have so much pain. The person is the soul. The soul is the life force or Atma that gives the life to all the senses and all the body. Because of the Atma, this body is conscious. That Atma is the consciousness, pure consciousness. And I am that pure consciousness. I am not this body which has been made conscious by the presence of this consciousness. So body is an instrument and is moving by the power of that consciousness. Senses are active by the power of that consciousness. Our organs are working because of the power of that consciousness. And I am neither this body, nor mind, nor senses, nor pranas. I am that pure consciousness, the Atman, which is ever present, never changing, never affected by any changes that happens in the world. The world has five kinds of changes. They say, they say that changes of the world. Jayate, asti, viparinamate, apakshiyate, nasyati. That happens in the world. Born and then grow and then mature and then decline and then die or destroy. That happens in the world, for the living system. But for the soul, none of this change happens because it never is born. It is ever there. It never dies because it is immortal. So for consciousness, which is my true nature, there is no separation. And I am one with the person, my beloved one, whether my child or my parent or my friend or my relation, which I love so much. I am one with that person if I consider myself as the Atman. There is no separation. There are no two Atma. There's only one Atma that appears as this person, that appears as that person, that appears as father, that appears as son. So when we have this sort of knowledge of the Atman, then there is no suffering from the pain of separation that also can overcome. This knowledge is so powerful. So this, to gain this knowledge of the self, we need to reflect upon our true nature and deny our identification with the body. We don't say deny the body as our instrument, but deny the identity with the body. Body is the instrument made of this nature and prepared by the Atman, by the Sukshma Sharira, by the subtle body. Karana Sharira, which prepares this subtle body and this gross body. So this is not I am that self. And so this instrument, this the one that is given by God, let it work for this life, and let me enjoy the life, and let me enjoy it for our spiritual progress. The more I engage my body and mind in some good things, like gaining spiritual knowledge or having the service for the people or gaining love for God, then I am utilizing this body and mind for good purpose, and we become always always happy and joyful. Real joy of life comes from that sort of life. That is the real success of life. Other things, real achievement in life is that. Other things that we gain are temporary phase. Passing an exam, getting a job, getting married, begetting children, all are taking a life of any other sort of order in life. All these are different phases of life that ever change. So that is not my real self. That is not my identity. That is the identity of this body, which is part of the nature, which I ignorantly think this is I. But when I know who I am, I become one with the whole existence. I do not accept this as my body. So that is the knowledge that it comes. So that knowledge of the truth or reality, when we go on reflecting who I am, so trying to deny little suffering, little pain, little unsuccessfulness in life as something happening to me as such. So we need to reflect upon the things when it comes. It is not me that is happening. It's happening to this part of nature of existence of this worldly existence, samsara. That there will be success and failure. There will be disease and health. There will be youthfulness and old age. There will be life and there will be birth and death. That is part of this body will be there. But with all these, I am not changed with the changes of the body. So this we need to reflect often. That reflecting on the nature of our true self and gaining the strength of spirituality is called spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is often guided by our formal spiritual guide called Guru, or we can get it from the books or from the guidance of the teachers by reading books, or some person who guides us, taking it seriously. Then we can really progress spiritually and gain to that state when we are not affected by the changes in the body of my body or the body of others. Even the separation of the soul from the body will not create any pain in me. And separation of my dear ones, which I call identifying only with the body of that person, that creates problem. The person will need to look when he see my son growing and walking on as he or she grows, only as the some body thing, then is the problem. But let us view that person as the self, as the Atman, as the soul that is moving this body, that divinity inside that person, that immortal, blemishless divinity that is moving this body, that has got the covering of this body at the cloak or the cloth that we wear. So it is so nice that this person moving in that body looks this. So we need to penetrate more and try to find the real person. Then the joys are more. Otherwise, there are little mistake of that person, and we get angry and upset when there is trying to relate with the soul to another soul. Then the external things, little mistake, little failure, little unfulfilled wish of ours will not create problem. Real love starts then, when we begin to see the person as the real person, when we begin to see ourselves as the soul and not as the body. Then we start seeing other also as the soul, and then we can cope all the negativities of that behavior, or ultimately if it is pain of separation or death, that also can be coped with the knowledge of self. That is so powerful. And another way to see this is, you see the waves coming in the ocean. And when one wave comes and it's a nice see that friend with another wave close by, they're talking and moving and going, and suddenly one's wave subsides. Now to other friend, this wave, should he cry? This wave is to subside. For the time being, it is there and then it will go. Then next moment you will also go. That is what the nature of the thing is. So not to become pained by the loss of one wave. It is the temporary phase. Knowing that I am not the wave, I have just taken this form has come to me by the will of by the breeze, that I have become. I seem like wave, but in reality, I am the water of the ocean. So, as water of the ocean, I am one with the ocean and one with that wave, which is inseparable from me. That wave, another wave, and myself are inseparable. We are same water of the same ocean. So that knowledge will remove the pain of separation totally. Other way is to know this, how we consider ourselves as the individual separated from the rest of the world. And whenever there is that fear of, there is a sensation, the world and myself, or other and myself, then there is fear. It comes from fear, anxiety, uncertainty. What will happen to me? This only we limit the limitless existence of our true self as the limited existence of our body. So, and then we suffer as the body suffers, which is very unreasonable. So, other way to get rid of this pain of suffering is having devotion and surrender to God. So, if we are not able to fathom the depth of our soul, and we consider ourselves as this body mind complex, having the soul or inner source, and yet we are individuals separate from the universe, but all belonging to God. Then we surrender to the will of God, by whose will everything happens in the world. My coming to this world as this body mind entity with the soul or jivatma, and my staying here, my sustenance, my going back to the other state is all because of the will of God. My getting friends or relation, that is also by the will of God. So it's all will of the God that makes us meet together. That is the will of God that makes us separate. And we consider you rejoin so much to the will of God, that whatever God does, that you have no difficulty in accepting that. So God brings you fortune, good people, hallowed be thy name. God makes you work with some colleagues that are not very easy to, not easy and friendly, and let God do that, His will. There must be something in God's will that He wants me to be with such person. So you try to find the ways and accept. When we accept God's will, resign to the God's will, then there comes a time when you start making good relation with that person. Or this relationship also depends on not only on the other person's view about me, about my view about that person. When my view about that person changes, that person's view starts changing. You don't have hatred, you don't want him to be something different. You now know how to accept that person as that person is, and that person is made by God or by his samskaras, which he is bound to follow, as I am bound to follow my own samskaras. So why should I have negative thought about that person? When we come to this sort of thing and surrender to the will of God, then suffering is gone, pain is not there. Likewise, when we know that the God is the one who has given us all my, whom I call my children or my parent or my friends, and God gave them to me, great gift, so kind. And at time, God will take them back. Whatever is given is taken back. So God has given us this body, it will also be taken back. God has given me friends, children, relations, mm, husband and wife, all they will be taken back in time when they are taken back to God. So we need not have any complaint. Complaining to the will of God is like protesting to little headache when we have that way. So no protest to the will of God. That is the supreme. That is the surrender to God's will. When we have that kind of surrender to the will of God, then there is no pain, there's no suffering. We start accepting the changes in life. We start accepting the separation that will inevitably be there. And we are ready to even die. One day the death will come, and we have no suffering for that. Disease and death and old age, that will come if we live long. If God wants, that will happen. And when we have that power of surrender to God, Surprisingly, our suffering to the pain becomes less. Our threshold of pain becomes much higher, and we can smile in the midst of pain. Smile because we know God has given, this is inevitable, and the pain is there, that happens to everyone. That is the nature of creation. When you have been born as a human being, pain is inevitable. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the body suffers pain. That is the tax that body pays for enjoying this world, and you cannot avoid the taxes. So when you enjoy something, you have to pay the tax. That is the law, that is the rule. So you don't lament for paying the taxes of the government. If it is 13%, you have to pay that. If it is 6%, you have to pay that. When you lament, oh, so much of taxes here, and in that country it is so less tax free, why so much tax here? So that is the question that creates suffering. That there is benefit for tax. We need to give something that we earn. And that does all good to us, all the public service that we get, the beautiful gardens and the parks and the roads and the security and all this in Canada, free education, free healthcare, all comes from the taxes. And the taxes we give, and that we enjoy, the whole community enjoys. So for that, why should we lament? Let us take it as the gift that Sri Krishna says in the Gita, that when one cooks for oneself without thinking about others, then that person eats sin. So when we share our income, share our produce, that is worship of God. The service of service of the community, the worship of God. So in that way, it is good that we give something from the thing that we have earned. So if we have that sort of feeling, then we have no suffering for even taxes. And so when we have that type of knowledge, that when body enjoys something in this world, it will have to pay tax, then suffering comes, then there is no pain. And other thing is agama paino anitya, it is temporary, it comes and goes, then there is no suffering. And when there is permanent, there's final pain, and then there is giving up this body, there is no pain. Time has come to meet beloved, as this our Pavahari Baba. Once he was bitten by a snake. Then he didn't suffer, oh, I will die. He said, oh, the call has come from the most beloved, that he wants me to go back, not to indulge in this world of Maya. So, like that was the saying of Pavhari Baba. So, he didn't die with that snake bite, but that's how the feeling can come. You can be happy in everything. The thing comes to in our life, and we can say, oh, that it happened only this much, it could be much more greater suffering could be there. So you endure that. That's how we endure the pain, by philosophically or by devotion with God or by rationally trying to find out. This is common to all human beings. Every person that is born has to suffer, has to have that pain. And that pain, I need to not suffer because there is pain. By understanding agama paino anitya, or knowing that the pain is of the body, not of mind, not of my true self, or by understanding that it is the gift of God, so, gift from beloved. By any of these ways, we can conquer the pain that we get in our life, including the pain of suffering. God, it is said, is defined very well, that in the Gita, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Surit Prabhava Pralaya Sthanam Nidhanam Bijam Abhyam. God is the supreme goal. That is our God. We go there. We want to go there. That is the supreme goal. Our supreme goal is not to live long in this life, in this world, and continue of life, mundane life. And God is Prabhu. He's the master. He's Bharta, his sustainer in this life. All is given by God. All is the gift of God. He is Sakshi, he's witness. He knows everything that happens to us. He takes care of us. He loves us too much. So whatever pain we are going through, God knows that. So we are not uncared. So it is all, we are under the care of God. Nivasa, his abode, and his Saranam, his the shelter, final shelter is God. And his Surit, he is the best friend. He always tries to remove all our suffering, and he, through his advice as the teacher, he's there. Prabhava, he's the origin of whole creation. And also his pralaya, his dissolution also, because of him. Everything that is created from him sustains in him, because he is the one who sustains it. And also it dissolves everything in him. So the God alone is the reality. This world appears from God and then merges in God. So why to worry for that disappearance of the thing of the world? It always merging in God. Nidhanam. It is the repository of creation, and also bijam abhyayam. It is the imperishable seed, that is God. Why seed? From it the creation happens, like that it is said, it is the creator, like that it's the bijam. What type of beej? Imperishable. The beej not like other plant. The once it sprouts, then the seed dies. It's not that. The seed is eternal seed. It will come, remain, go. Again come, return, and go. That is God, and that God is our true self. We are in God, we are one when we have knowledge. That God, who is our true self, is eternal. It will never destroy. The God is the self of not only this individual me, but the self of everyone. That's why the one who from whom we are separated is not really separated. He is really this body, this ego, this physical existence has gone, but spiritual existence is ever there as the Brahman, as the Atman, it can never go. So that is how we can conquer the pain of separation, through the knowledge and through surrender to the will of God. And then we can live this life happily. The purpose of spiritual life is to live this human life that we have gained by the grace of God, with the serenity, with happiness, with peace. There is so much of restlessness and suffering and anxiety which need not come there if we can live the life of spirituality. Spirituality gives that strength, that knowledge, that hold, that support, that we can live in all situations. We can live peacefully and joyfully. That scriptures and all saints and gurus that promise that thing. So I would like to conclude with the sayings of Swami Vivekananda. He said that the self is the essence of this universe, the essence of all souls. You are one with the universe. He who says he is different from others, even by a hair's breadth, immediately becomes miserable. Happiness belongs to him who knows this oneness, who knows he is one with the universe. This we need to gain the knowledge and realize this oneness with existence, oneness with Sat Chit Ananda, oneness with the Supreme Self, Paramatma. We consider Atma, but Paramatma is same as Atma. There's no difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. Jivo Brahmaiva na para, said Shankaracharya. The Jiva, the individual self, is none other than Brahman, the supreme self, the supreme reality. But by mistake, we consider ourselves as the Jiva. When we gain knowledge, we know that we are that supreme self. So may God grant us that knowledge by His infinite mercy, that we attain that stage when we can conquer all suffering in this life, suffering of separation, or feeling of loss, or feeling of uncertainty and anxiety of future. And may we overcome all that and live happily in the present time, every day renewing the present and accepting the thing as it comes in our life. May by God's grace we be spiritual, we become fearless, we live in peace and serenity, we love and service to all our fellow human beings, or all our fellow souls and spirits, our own souls as they appear as different beings. May we find that oneness and live in service of myself in all other beings which appear as other beings. Thank you very much. Now we close today's Sunday service by the closing chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. जय श्री गुरु महाराज जी की जय, जय महामाई की जय, जय स्वामी जी महाराज जी की जय, जय गंगा माई की जय, जय भगवान बुद्ध की जय, जय ईशा मूषा की जय, सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गानि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु, सर्वसद्बुद्धिमाप्नोतु, सर्वत्र नन्दतु. Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Just a reminder at the end that we have AGM next week, AGM of the Toronto Center, but we have not received sufficient proxies of the members. I would like to request those who have not yet sent the proxies, please send if we are not able to attend the AGM. If you are planning to attend the AGM, you may let us know that you are attending. We'd be glad to have you here in person, in the ashram in person, while conducting. If you are not able to attend, please send your proxy by email or by regular mail. Thank you very much, and see you on 20th, next week, next Sunday, in the Vedanta Society of Toronto. Namaskaram. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye.